Before I forget this thought that I just had, it was like a really circular logic thing on that I noticed in like the pro-Palestinian leftist camp that I'd like to challenge you guys on. So a big thing that you like to always like Tucker Carlson or whatever is like, no, it's always wrong to kill kids. You're gross for even in going down the line of thinking that it's ever okay to kill kids. Okay, yes, I agree, it's gross to kill kids. So this is to any purported I super hate Israel, they're gross genociders, people that also believe, I guess, the fact that Hamas kidnapped a baby on October 7th and all the pillaging, raping, killing civilians, whatever. Let's just go with the one incident, ridiculously publicly known fact of the bibas baby that was kidnapped. That's a literal baby that was kidnapped. And I think you would agree, since you're all gung-ho about, like, it's never okay with kids, that was wrong. So now, so you agree that's wrong. Now we can play this game of why, and when do the whys start, and who are you blaming, and whatever. And you like to go down history to a specific length of 1948, not thousands of years ago when Jews were originally settling there, not today where there are babies that didn't do anything wrong, Jewish and Arab and whatever, born in current state of Israel. Anyway, let's go down this why road. Why was that baby kidnapped? And is it justifiable? So you try to justify it by saying, well, Israel, it's a back and forth. It's actually Israel started it. Israel does all this bad stuff. That's the why. So why don't you ask Israel why it's doing all this stuff to the Palestinians? And it's like, but your whole thing is it's never justifiable to do stuff to children. So why are we going back farther than October 7th? That's my question. Why should we go back farther than October 7th? Because this was a long rant to get here, but the main point is, do you think it's justifiable to ever do things to I guess the younger they get, the more innocent, right? To babies or not. And then do you acknowledge that they kidnapped a baby and then their entire like government state, like maybe it's disorganizing chaos and war, whatever. It's like some amount of people know where this baby's being held and are currently holding a baby until they strangled and killed it. I'm sure a lot of you think like, oh, that's propaganda. Israel's hiding that it was bombed or some crap like that. Like you always manage to twist things. But at the end of the day, it's really well known that they kidnapped a baby and then tried to use that for like political purposes. So are you cool with that or not? And then does Israel get to respond to that or not? You don't get to go back before. You're the ones that say there's never justification for stuff with kids. So how do you justify it? Because stuff happened before? Okay, you can't pick and choose. Either October 7th justifies Israel reacting, or they shouldn't have kidnapped a fucking baby. Because you never really analyze the tactics they use, which, by the way, are the grossest tactics you could possibly imagine of like hiding, like brainwashing their kids they don't care about to like have a bomb that's remotely controlled in a backpack so that Israel has to be as diligent in checking every crevice essentially at the checkpoint as possible, or else they'll take full advantage of it. And then taking out of context stills of like those interactions and or doctoring or shitty AIing them, and then letting that spread with their gigantic network of people that vilify Israel abroad and bots and shit. Every single aspect of it is hypocrisy. Like the In fact, the hypocrisy is so strong in every element of the Israel-Palestine thing that you could only take one half of it, and that just ends the. And you could do this for like countless examples, and it should in theory, if the person is impartial and not an idiot, end the debate instantly. So, for instance, let's do this. Which side is more often accused of being the gross, money-hungry, corrupt side? Worldwide, the Jews or the Muslims? I'm going to go with the Jews. We have a stronger stereotype of being like a secret cabal of like controlling wealth and nefarious and hoarding, right? You would agree probably. Okay, let's take Israel and Palestine. The leader of Israel, who's like probably slightly Putin-esque, okay with the fact there's an ongoing conflict because he has like up for corruption charges or something, because like Israel actually monitors that stuff and eventually you might get caught. Whereas the leaders of Hamas were on paper, not even hidden, so you can look this up and it's known, billionaires. While the whole world complains that it's like an open air prison and starvation and stuff there before the war. So it's like, why does no one, why aren't there, either their own people are stupid enough to not be angry about this and continue to blame Israel, or they don't know, or it's a combination of being brainwashed and they're too scared to speak out about it, or whatever it is. But like, it's just hilarious. Like, the leader of the Jew country has less money than Nancy Pelosi, and the multiple leaders of Hamas have like multiple billions of dollars and are hiding out in 5-star Qatar hotel luxury while their people are being killed. And like, so that's just the money aspect, right? And again, keep in mind, you can ignore that the Hamas leaders are billionaires, which is insanely hypocritical and ironic for the world to ignore, and just focus on, wait, if the Jews are really that crazy on like in secretly getting wealthy and stealing stuff, shouldn't Netanyahu have like $1 trillion? Like, shouldn't he have more than Elon Musk? Anyway, then there's like the textbook aspect of that. It's like the Jews control the media and the textbooks, and they're infiltrating your opinions, which is why you're so woken up to it and the Great Awakening, and you hate them so much, and all your friends talk shit about them all the time. Because they're genociders that suck at genocide so bad that the population's going up, and they're media controllers that suck at media controlling so bad that everyone knows they're media controllers. Anyway, then if you actually, with intellectual integrity, take the effort to look up what the hell UNRWA, it's hard to pronounce, whatever, the UN agency, like, tasked with like teaching their kids in Gaza, like, literally sounds made up, but just go look it up yourself. Like, their textbooks from the time they can like read are like obsessively focusing like, oh, we should be teaching you math right now, but 50% of what we're talking about is the Jews and Israel, and they stole our land and we're going to get it back. It's like, and they're not even smart enough, by the way. Like, part of the reason the Jews are so successful is that we understand. By the way, I'd like to say that as a whole, our goal is not like caliphate, jihad, conquer type shit. It's actually hard to convert to Judaism, going back to the intellectual integrity thing. But like, say our goal was conquest. Say our goal was for Israel. Like, they constantly accuse Israel wants to broaden its borders, which is why, of course, they gave back the gigantic Sinai Peninsula, like filled with oil they found, to Egypt for peace. And they haven't messed with each other really since, compared to like Gaza, which has a wall put up after the Intifada and sending rockets. Anyway, let's say Israel's goal is land conquest. I would venture that in second grade, we're continuing to teach the math and not teaching, we're going to conquer the whole world, because that's stupid, because you're not going to conquer the world if you don't know math. Like, and don't get me started on the whole thing of like, a few generations later, they're still perpetual refugees regardless of where they're born. But a few generations later, the Jews don't get like all these surrounding Arab countries back. Like, it's always a double standard. And I was constantly using Sudan as the example of the like picking and choosing what to focus on tunnel vision thing. And then now there's Iran. But again, just the aggregate is 2/3 of what the UN says is against Israel. So like the lack of intellectual integrity would have to be like, well, I guess they're just that bad then, versus immediately dropping whatever your thought process is and being like, whoa, wait a second, 200 countries, and instead of 0.5% of what the UN talks about, it's 67%. That seems a little bit biased. Like, maybe I should take it with a grain of salt from now on, everything the UN says. Like, I've told you that. It's now up to you to do the due diligence and make sure it's true or not. And then if you know it's true, again, have a single grain of intellectual integrity and think, oh, I didn't realize this hate burner the world has for Israel is like super deep-seated, ridiculously like exaggerated, out of context. And maybe all these accusations of it being in conjunction and parallel to anti-Semitism, not necessarily that I'm an anti-Semite, but maybe I'm tagging along with my friends who are slightly more than I am, and maybe they're tagging along with the entire Islamic Arab world, which is more than 100 times as large as the Jewish world. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe Qatar and Saudi Arabia also have money, and not just the Jews. And maybe the Jews doing disproportionately well on average does not make up for the fact that they're outnumbered by over 100 times in a day and age where even in poorer countries, most people have smartphones. Like, are you following me here? Like, I mean, who's still watching this like 10-minute long rant if they hate Israel at the beginning? But you've been duped. This all started with the kidnapped baby thought I had, which is, again, like, okay, last thing I'll end on is you don't need to focus on how evil. So a reasonable person would look at the tactics Hamas uses and say, anyone fighting them, you know what? Gloves are off, because they went out of their way to make it complicated and involve as many casualties as possible and be as sneaky and gross as possible. So, I mean, how could I even attempt to untangle this situation and blame the side facing them for like being immoral? I mean, even if they were to sink to their level, it's like, well, you just raped them and kidnapped a baby. So, I mean, you brought out this animalistic side in them, but that's not what happens. Now, let's only focus on Israel, because of course there's the irony of both happening in conjunction. In reality, you have a ridiculously defensive, for the Middle East, moral and democratic country, well, for the world, and facing this really evil crap. But let's just focus on Israel now. Now, this part has always gotten me. It's always blown my mind. It's just blown my mind. Israel is the country that invented Iron Dome. What is Iron Dome? It's an extremely expensive per missile system with the explicit purpose of killing the missile itself coming at you in the sky like fucking magic. Okay? What am I fucking missing here where the country that did that is not applauded as being like super careful to save lives, like super defensive, super advanced? What am I missing here? How could you possibly do anything more to avoid like escalating a conflict than you're just taking these sucker punch, actually unguided, stupid fucking like water pipe sugar launched missiles, sugar fuel or whatever the fuck they use, like you're sending, I think at one point it was like $250,000. I might be wrong about that, but they're expensive as fuck. Very expensive. Super guided enough to hit a moving fucking rocket target into the sky. Like, to me, you could just glance at the notion of Iron Dome and you're like, oh, no one should ever accuse that country of being like super aggressors. It's obvious. Because clearly you could take a fraction of the intelligence and cost of each Iron Dome rocket and use it aggressively, offensively, to do a massive amount of damage. Like, what am I missing here? How stupid are you people? Seriously. Iron Dome exists. Israel invented it. That's the end. You can add on to that if you want that the side they're facing, when given the ability to get through a fence for a day, let alone Iron Dome jet fighters, nukes, rapes and pillages and kidnaps babies and shit. Their leaders are billionaires. How about we blame the billionaire leaders? Like, forget everything else. Israel invented Iron Dome, and then 2/3 of the UN's time is spent like, that's the most evil country in the world. Forget every other country. It's completely fucking insane. The only fact you need is that Israel invented Iron Dome. Why did they do that? What is their motivation? What is their intent? If you had the ability to be the country that invents Iron Dome, you could have wiped out Gaza yesterday. You're welcome they didn't wipe out Gaza. What other country would go through the effort of inventing Iron Dome? It's a waste of resources unless you super value the lives of the people launching rockets at you. Am I taking crazy pills?